Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I'm Lisa, also known as Fiber Nymph. You can find me on Instagram as Fiber Nymph Dye Works, also as Fiber Nymph. I have a Ravelry group for the Fiber Nymph Dye Works channel here. My website is fibernymphdyworks.com, which is where you will also find my hand-dyed yarns. And there's a Facebook page for the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group as well. So you can find me all over the place. All those things are linked down below, as is my email address if you ever need to get in touch with me for anything. And you're always welcome to leave comments on my videos. I try to respond to those in a fairly timely fashion. So today's video was originally going to be my recap of my first quarter of the Stop Shooting on Yourself make-along, which is my make-along that I am running all through this year. However, if you're not taking part in that make-along, don't worry. This is going to be applicable to you as well. Because I kind of rethought that. I had written out show notes to do my original thought, and then as I started getting into it, I'm like, this is going to be really boring. Because most of the things I was going to talk about were things that I've already talked about on past episodes of the podcast, past regular episodes. So I really wanted to broaden this and make this a little bit more applicable to making in general, but it will also be applicable to those of you who are taking part in the make-along. So hopefully there's a little bit of something for everyone. And how I'm doing this is I'm going to frame this with a series of 5 questions with regard to your making and my making. Obviously, I will be answering for myself. Question for all of us is, overall, how satisfied are you feeling with the making that you have been doing this year? And I would have to say I'm feeling pretty good about it. I will say that I am making, at this point in the year, I have made far fewer items than I usually have at this point in the year. And I think that is because I've been approaching things at a slower pace, just by the way that life has gone this year. I'm working at a slower pace, but I'm also choosing my projects more mindfully. And my projects are also a little bit more diverse than they used to be. I'm doing a lot more weaving. I have been spinning fairly heavily this year. Those are things that I don't always concentrate on. I'm usually a knitter, just a knitter, nothing but a knitter. And this year, and there's been crochet this year as well. And those are all things that I'm not, at least the crochet and the weaving, I'm not as adept at. I don't have the same level of skills as I do with my knitting and my spinning. So they've taken longer. But overall, I'm still really satisfied with what I've been doing because I am exercising new skills, I'm learning new things. And so the things that I am focusing on knitting, I've had to be more mindful of because I want them to really be things that I'm enthused with, or as much as possible. So that would be my answer. So what's yours? Overall, how satisfied are you with what you've been doing this year? Are you avoiding that should trap? And you know, how satisfied are you and why? Why are you that satisfied? What is making your crafting and the things that you're making, what is satisfying about those? That's going to be important in a little bit. Second question, what project or projects, but what project have you made so far this year that has been the most fulfilling for you? I have 2 answers for that. For me, the first one is a personal crafting goal that I had, and that was my combo spin, which I did finish last week. So this was a collection of, I don't know, I want to say 6 or 7 braids of fiber that I had in my stash that all had this common color theme. And I started this project last July, and I just finished plying the last of it last week. So I ended up with 7 skeins. Just dropped one. 7 skeins. This was the last one. There was so little left on the bobbins, but the teensy skein. And then I've got this little 8th bonus skein that is a chain ply that I did with the last of the singles that was on the final bobbin. I don't know what my final yardage is, but I do know that it will be enough for me to knit the sweater that I was planning to make with this yarn that I was spinning, which is the DRK Everyday Pullover. Or maybe it's the DRK Everyday Sweater. I don't remember what the exact name of it is, but it's an Andrea Mowry pattern, and that was specifically what I was spinning this yarn for. So this is very satisfying to have this done. It was a big project. I loved spinning all this fiber. These colors are totally in my wheelhouse, so it made me very happy in that respect too. And I still need to soak it. I still need to calculate my final yardage. And I'm just really looking forward to finally making the sweater. I may wait until closer to fall to start the sweater. I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet how soon I want to dive into it. I also need to be able to swatch and see how close I am engaged with this weight of yarn. I may need to do some math before I can do the sweater with this yarn. But at any rate, this has been a very satisfying project, and I'm super glad to have it finished now. I said I had 2 projects that have been extremely fulfilling, and the other one is more along the lines of my business goals that I also set for myself as my part of the Make Along. One of my goals this year has been to do more designing, and my first published pattern of the year was the Fluffy Hearts pattern. And it's just a tiny little pattern, a tiny little project. It takes less than an hour to make one of these. However, this was such a fulfilling project for me to design this pattern and publish it because I'm using it as a fundraiser. There's all the proceeds from the pattern itself, as well as the kits that I did, $5 from each of the kit, and then the proceeds from the pattern itself. I'm donating to Canines for Warriors, which I've talked about a lot on the podcast, and you can see all the information in my shop about that as well. But it's been very fulfilling for me to be able to make those donations every month. I made one in February, which was the first month, did one for March. It was a little bit smaller because the pattern, wasn't a brand new one out there, but I just had a show last weekend and I did sell a bunch of the kits, so I'm going to get to make a donation for April as well, and being able to contribute to a cause that has such a personally important mission, working towards ending veteran suicide. That has been extremely satisfying for me, and I'm glad to be able to play a part in that mission. So those are my 2 things that have been most satisfying. And as you can see, when I ask myself why has that been satisfying, the why of this one is so totally different than the why of that combo spin. But I think it's really important to know the why of why things are satisfying for you as a maker, because it helps you choose your projects a little bit more wisely. At least it does for me. Question number 3. Throughout your making this year, have you encountered any projects that you really were excited about and thought were going to bring you a lot of joy, but in the end actually turned out to not be as exciting or enjoyable as you thought they were going to be? I do have one. And it is my Highland Slipover, which is almost finished at this point. But if you followed the regular podcast, you know I've had problems with it. So let's see if I can get it here. Blah, blah, blah. Where are you? So here it is. It does have a neckline again. It does have the arm cuffs again. and I am at least halfway through the bottom ribbing now. I've had to do a lot of ripping back on this to get it to fit right. I had anticipated that this was going to be a really quick first project for the year. I was going to get it on the needles, get it off the needles. It seemed very straightforward. I was using hand spun, which always makes me happy. I love to knit with my hand spun, and knitting with my hand spun has been very satisfying. However, the project itself has just been a slog because of all the problems that I've run into. I'm fairly certain most of the fit issues are due to my own errors that I've made. I can't exactly pinpoint the errors, but I'm pretty sure that that is what's causing the issue. However, it is almost finished. I will be able to get wear out of it. It's not like it's going to just go in the Goodwill bag or something as soon as I finish it. And it's not so off that I feel the need to rip it out. At least not now. Who knows? In the future, maybe that's what I'll end up doing with it. But I think I'll be able to wear it, and it'll be fine. But it's definitely one of those projects that I had been really excited about, and then it turned out to not actually be all that I had built it up to be in my brain. So when I ask myself, well, why is that? What happened that kept it from being as exciting as I thought it was going to be? And I think the thing that I liked about it to begin with was I thought it was going to be a fast project, a fast garment to make, and it did not end up being that. And so that is part of what has let me down. If I dig more deeply into that, though, I do believe it is just because I have made mistakes in it that I can't figure out, and or I'm not going to go back to fix at this point. So it became a case of mitigating the issues as opposed to truly fixing them and making them perfect. But I don't hate the project. I think it'll be okay, but it just definitely did not live up to what I was expecting it to be when I cast it on back in early January. And I'm a little frustrated at myself for letting it lag on this long and just not finishing it and moving on. Because I know for me, sometimes when I have projects like this that you hit a wall with for whatever reason, the longer you let them sit, or the longer I let them sit, the more frustrating it becomes, and then it gets harder and harder to get back to them and finish them. My Granny Stripes cardigan would be an excellent example of that as well. I did finish that this year. It did not end up being a cardigan. It ended up just being a vest, a sleeveless vest, a cardigan vest, open front vest, I guess. I don't know how you call a vest that does not slip over. But anyway, I'm really happy with the outcome of that, though. That's the funny thing. Like, even though it's nothing like it was supposed to end up being, that one actually turned out really well for me. So we'll see. I hold out hope that I will enjoy this as well. But that would be my letdown so far this year. She thought she was going to nest in my Highland Slipover. And even though my Highland Slipover may not be bringing me quite as much joy as I thought it would, I don't think I'm ready for it to be turned into a cat bed either. This is Tippy, by the way, in case you've never met our little demon cat. Are you going to behave? Oh, okay. Okay, question number 4. Have you encountered any elements of life that you weren't expecting to encounter that have caused you to not be able to do or work on the goals that you had set for yourself this year with your making? So, there's always unexpected life events that can happen. We don't have any control over them. Think about finding out, oh, I have to move, or oh, my job is changing, or, something happens within your family and you need to attend to family issues. Those kind of things we can't really plan for. Meanwhile, there are other things that maybe happen every year or we know are coming up, but we didn't really factor them in when we made these goals, and that can sometimes throw us off. So I'm just wondering, have you guys encountered anything like that? I have. Two things that I can think of off the top of my head. Number one, when I made my goals at the beginning of this year, my wish list of knitting that I wanted to do, I totally didn't think about the fact that I had shows planned for this year. I have not vended at fiber festivals or anything in over 3 years. So I knew I was going to do some this year, but for whatever reason, I did not factor in all the time it takes to get ready for a show. And so the fact that I did not get very much making done at all earlier in April and a lot of March, like it was frustrating me that I couldn't get stuff done, but I needed to work. And there was nothing I could do about that. I enjoy my work and I love what I do for work, but it's still, that making time that I have in the mornings or in the evenings or wherever I can fit it in during the day, like that keeps me sane. And I had some weeks where like I was getting up, eating breakfast or having coffee, and then immediately going down to the studio to get dyeing already. That's hard. And so it was also frustrating me that I wasn't able to finish my combo spin at that time. I had just left that Highland slip over in the corner because I just didn't have time to deal with it, or I didn't have the bandwidth to think about how to fix the problems that I was having. So those were things that that was something that I had not factored into my making. The other thing is gardening. Like I did not put that on my list at all. And I think I didn't because it's just something I do every year, even though it is something that I do because it brings me joy and I want to be able to put the time into it. My daughter and I started putting in a garden a few years ago. Sorry, I have a cat right here at the moment. And so over the past week, I've been down there trying to get things prepped, and it's like, I have stuff inside that I'd like to be doing, but I also enjoy the time outside. So it's not a deal breaker with any of the things that I want to make. It's just one of those things that I did not count on. And I just know, throughout the summer, there are going to be periods, and even into fall, hopefully, if I have harvest, that I'll be spending more time outside and less time being able to do things that were on my wish list for the make along. And I guess that also comes back around to, how does it make you feel whenever you hit those kind of bumps in your making list, or in your making, just in general? And for me, well, it can be frustrating. I try to remember that when I put together that wish list of things for this year, I didn't put it down on paper because I wanted to be able to check everything off. I made the list as a way to have ideas in front of me that, oh yeah, I definitely want to make that. I've wanted to make that for so many years and I really want to focus on that. So there were things that I could pull from, not things that I absolutely had to get done. So I just have to remind myself of that when I'm starting to feel frustrated about not having quite as much making time, that it's okay. It'll come back around. It's cyclical, and eventually I will have time to focus on some of those other projects that I haven't gotten to yet. Okay, fifth and final question for you with regard to your making for this year. Moving forward, what is it that might help you to either maintain or regain your enthusiasm for those projects that you really wanted to work on this year because you thought they would bring you joy? Are there ways you can adapt to some of those unexpected changes that you might have encountered that are keeping you from getting things done? What is it that will help you move forward in a positive way rather than just sort of go, whatever, I give up? Because we don't want to give up on our making. Here's where I would encourage you to look back at your answers for the whys to those initial questions that I asked you. Like, why are you feeling the way you're feeling about your making so far? Like, my first question was, how satisfied are you about your making so far this year? And whatever you answered, I said, think about why. Why is that? And for me, a big part of it is I've been more mindful about what I'm making. So mindfulness is a big part of my making journey this year. Number two, like, what was the project that you've been most satisfied with and why? What was it? For me, my combo spin, it was, I had a plan. I had a plan for this fiber to spin this yarn to make this project. So there was a good planning process there, which I don't always have in my making, but in that case I did, and that's been part of that satisfaction. And with regard to my little design, my heart, it was because it was a way for me to give back, and that's very important to me as well. The project that I thought would make me happy and didn't, why didn't it make me happy? Well, I could say, it just didn't because I had problems. Well, what were the problems? The problems was maybe I had some unrealistic expectations for it. Maybe I made errors. I definitely made errors that I didn't catch, can't figure out, can't, fix per se. Those are the things, that was the why of that one. And as far as, how you're feeling about those unexpected elements that might be taking part in your life that are keeping you from getting things done, how are those feelings affecting you? And is there a way that you can reframe them rather than being frustrated? Can you just, reframe it into, okay, this is temporary. It's frustrating now, but it won't always feel that way. So when I look at moving forward, the things that I'm thinking of is, remember for me to focus on things more mindfully, my mindful projects, things that maybe have a plan, and taking my time so that I don't make the errors that are frustrating me. Those are all things that help me maintain my my motivation in crafting. And I think another thing that's important, whether it's this list or just crafting in general, sometimes we just need to take a time out, step back from projects, especially ones that are giving us trouble, and, do the little side projects, even if it's like dishcloths. Like, I will often do a dishcloth as like a palette cleanser project because they're so quick, so fast to make, super easy. Is it really, a satisfying project? Not super satisfying, other than the fact that I have a new dishcloth to make. But things like that, just whatever's fast and easy. Sometimes those things can be satisfying just in themselves to give you a break from something else. Or if you're going to be really busy and you only have a little bit of time every day to craft, maybe set a project aside. Have your sock that you can just put a round or two on at those few moments when you have time, and just carry it around the house with you so it's always there. Sometimes those things are really beneficial and help keep you motivated to work on the other things that you really want to be working on when you do have the time. Okay, so those are my thoughts for this year. I hope those 5 questions might be a little bit helpful for you as you think about your making this year. Just remember, making is supposed to be fun. It's what we do for joy. It shouldn't feel like work, and it shouldn't feel like a burden. Now, unless you actually do crafting as your work, which I guess in a way I do. Dyeing yarn is my work, but it's also fun. But I'm talking about like you're making, your knitting, your crochet, your spinning, whatever it is you do, your needlepoint, your gardening, baking, paper crafting, whatever it is that you had on your making list for this year. Like, just remember it's supposed to be fun. And when it stops being fun, step back and think about, why is this not fun? Like, is it the project that I'm not enjoying? Is it the process I'm not enjoying? Is it the materials I'm using? What is it? What can I change? Or do I just need to set it aside and say, maybe this is not the time for me to be doing this right now? Any of those answers are absolutely valid. And it's fine to not complete something if it's not bringing you joy. Sometimes we have to have somebody give us permission, and I am giving that to you. If you are not finding joy in something, you are absolutely permitted to just not finish it. You can rip it out. You can sit it in time out for the next 3 years if you want to, or 5 years or 10 years, whatever you want to do with it. It's okay. It's okay. Just remember to find that joy in your crafting so that it feels worthwhile to you and that you're really getting something from it other than just another finished object that you did because it was easy and, it gave you a finished object. I hope this has been helpful. I would love to hear your comments. Feel free to leave them in the comments below. Send me an email. Post in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group on Ravelry if that's accessible to you. At any rate, I will see you again soon with a more regular video about what I have been working on. But until then, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.